And to finish that, just a huge clap for Norfolk Southern for the graciousness. It used to be, honestly, that we didn't even look for other places because Norfolk really just hosted all of the ATUGs. And then I think Andy got sick of that. And I don't know if it was... No, that's right. That's totally what it was. We had to find other places. Yeah. Yeah. Love it. All right, so here's what we do. So obviously, a huge thank you to the Norfolk Southern crew. So to shift gears, we've got a great panel, and hopefully you all have been pondering the great questions going to stump this panel. But before we get going on that, I think it would be great for everybody to introduce themselves. Just kind of your name, where you work, where you call home. I think almost everybody's from Atlanta except for maybe Keri. And then how long have you been using Tableau? And
probably all of
maybe inspiration. Somebody who's been an inspiration to you in your Tableau journey. So
okay.
Start at the end.
Hi there, I'm Josh Preston. I work at Georgia Tech in the College of Computing, doing news and marketing. I'm coming up on 5 years using Tableau. I snuck into an investigative journalist conference. They didn't catch me because I do PR, not journalism. But there's a lot of coding stuff. It was too hard. I stumbled on Tableau, Ben Jones, and Joel Lowry. Kind of changed my world. Fast forward, basically, I enhanced Georgia Tech's reputation with public-facing visualizations whenever we publish in robotics and AI and all that stuff, inventing that type of stuff, not just buzzwords for us. And Andy Kriebel, I do a lot of Tableau public stuff while I'm on inspiration. I do this for fun. This is my only hobby. So I do it for fun and work. And Andy Kriebel in all his tutorials, he's a role model for a lot of people. So 5 years in, and the shine hasn't lost the shine.
Hey, Travis Harple. I am a consultant at Tech Consulting, primarily doing data visualization, but data engineering as well. I've been using Tableau, I think about the same time, around 5 years. Got my start always in data. A lot of my visualization early on was Excel, maybe like a lot of people here, but then evolved into visualization tools like ClickView and then ultimately Tableau. It's kind of where I've been living since then.
So Nelson Davis, I'm in an organization called Analytic Vision, and been using Tableau about 8.5 years. Again, it's funny because one of my kids is about the same age as that, so it's easy to remember. And it's one of my inspirations is a good friend of mine, a good friend of ATUG, is Mark Jackson. And Mark was kind of the first guy that I met that I was like, man, you're really good at this. I want to learn a lot from you. And then another guy named Ryan Robitaille, who I think almost nobody has heard of, but he was an old Zen, like one of the original classes of Zens, and I looked at his stuff and I was like, man, this is so cool to see how you put these things together. So it's a big inspiration for me.
Karen Hinson. I work for Chick-fil-A in our financial services department, and I've been using Tableau now for 6 years. And I guess inspiration-wise, Nelson, you and Paul, and I guess everyone probably has people they look up to from when they first started using Tableau, and you guys are mine. I can just remember like learning a lot, coming to ATUG meetings, and then going to Tableau conferences. But the people at that time that were really out there, like explaining and making it look easy for you guys. So it's y'all for me.
Hi, my name is Keri James. I have my own business. The name is very original, Keri James, CPA. I'm a CPA. I've been a CPA for 15 years. 5 years ago, I became addicted to Tableau because of I'm Korean and probably not Finnish. I'm in Athens, Georgia. Tech fans don't eat.
Hi, my name is Anthony Hipp. I am a senior manager for clinical data ingestion at Anthem. I've been using Tableau for about 5 years, and my inspiration to Tableau is Andy Kriebel. I met him about 6 months into my Tableau life, and just became hooked on Makeover Monday. I'm a really big supporter of never stop learning and getting data literacy and being enthusiast about data. So that's my passion and my inspiration.
Hi, my name is Kim Lucas. I am with the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta, Senior Director over Risk, Safety, Facility, and Fleet Operations. I'm the newbie of the group, and I've been working with Tableau for a little less than a year, and my inspiration was my former colleague, who's now with you, Keri at Chick-fil-A, Kirsten. She brought me to the light.
All right, so we're going to seed one question and then hopefully kind of reach out to the audience here. But the first question we're going to ask, and not everybody has to answer. There's 7 of us. So the first question is, what are some of the best organizational practices you've seen to create interest for others in beginning to use Tableau at scale? So what are some of the things, Karen, you and Mark really started Tableau at Chick-fil-A, and now you're talking about hundreds of users and whatnot. So maybe throw this one to you as kind of give us a quick idea around some of the things you all did that helped it to go viral at Chick-fil-A.
I would say for us, one thing that is, I'm passionate about this. I think that it takes somebody to be like a champion to really get so into it and be so passionate about it and really see the value in it and have that energy and excitement that they're going to spend every waking minute trying to showcase here's what we can do. I believe in this. And at Chick-fil-A back in 2013, 2014, that was my boss at the time, Mark and I. And to this now, we really have a lot of folks using it, and a lot of people are seeing the value in it. But it definitely took, for us, people putting their names out there and putting themselves on the line. I really believe in this. I really think there's something to this. We should invest in this. What about you guys?
I was gonna say one thing. I do what millennials do now. I basically do YouTube videos or whatever videos, and I put it on Trello for my team because they loved it. They loved the business, and they always think, "Can you do this, this, and this?" I'm like, "Well, here's what it takes to do this." And I do the videos for them. I had 2 people actually take me up, and I'm a better teacher now because I do these little videos. So that's finally scaling the work on my team.
I'll say, kind of to build on that, I think having some sort of proper training structure in place is huge. I don't know how many times I've heard a company, goes out and gets, this great Tableau installation, this many servers, especially this many users, and then they don't provide any kind of training for those users to kind of get up to speed and get to using it. And what ends up happening is you see these executives kind of say, well, where's the value we're getting back on this? And it's, you didn't give your users the proper tools they need to kind of excel and show them the power of the tool.
I think the question's really broad, and there's lots of use cases to resolve it, but one I think everybody can relate to is, well, we just want to see this in Tableau, which is the AKA Excel. And so one of the solutions we've come up with is we do it, we build it just like it is in Excel, but then we build another dashboard of what these could look like, and when we do, our user demo, we show what they asked for. And that really opens eyes to that potential that Tableau offers.
I would piggyback off of Karen. I think you need to have a champion who is passionate about Tableau and understands it as far as wanting to know, take it to the next level, and partner with other people in various departments. That's how Preston and I got together. I collected a lot of data for various things because, again, I was over risk, safety, so I dealt with a lot of incident reporting, safety drills, I dealt with work orders, repairs, budgets, so a variety of things. I was collecting a lot of data that I had to present on, and this taking me somewhere between 4 to 6 hours at the end of the month to put all that stuff together in PowerPoint and in Word docs. And so one day we were just having a simple conversation, and I was just sharing what I was doing, and she's like, "You're doing what?" Let me show you something. So I think the fact that you're sharing amongst yourselves of what you're doing to help other departments to tell your story, that champion has to be there to help guide you through it and take it to the next level.
Awesome. Question from the crowd. Gentleman right here.
This is actually related to all that. It seems like we were pushing pretty hard at the conference, Tableau Blueprint. Did any of you have any experience with it or any thoughts about it? It seems like you've already established most of the businesses, but do you have any experience with it?
Yes, let me repeat the question for everybody. So at the conference, if you were there, Tableau has kind of come out with this thing called Tableau Blueprint. It's interesting because Tableau Blueprint is kind of the second iteration of this thing that was called Tableau Drive. Tableau Drive came out in about 2014, 2015. It was basically how do you drive adoption of visual analytics at different organizations. Now, Blueprint is much more comprehensive. The failing of Drive was it was really just focused only on the Tableau piece. The idea of Blueprint is it's really more designed to be an analytic strategy for comprehensively how do we do the data, how do we do the visualization, and so forth. So, do you want to chat on that?
Yeah, I just basically went to their booth, and I was super impressed because everybody likes data, but they didn't know what type of role or what type of agency they could have in their role in data. And so basically, Tableau Blueprint said, hey, I'm a consumer, I'm an analyst, I'm an author. So it gave you questions in the booth and say, hey, you passed. And you can actually, I guess you can identify with specific ways to use data now. So I think with data cultures that don't exist in an organization, or a place to start, I think it's a good place to start data. Tableau Blueprint.
So I'm going to do a couple of things here and just give some context. So I had a cool opportunity at the conference on Monday before everything kind of got started to be able to go in and, it was Tuesday, sorry, they had a data leaders summit. And the idea there was that you had a bunch of CDOs and CAOs and CIOs from different places. And what I was struck by was the fact that everybody's kind of chasing this elusive analytic strategy and actually getting it to implement. And what I was struck by was that very few places feel like they're doing it well. Even organizations that you'd be like, oh, I mean, how can you not, right? I mean, the Targets and the Best Buys, and I sat next to one of the lead people at Apple, and the huge user of Tableau, and there's so much data, we have no idea, right? And so I was both kind of discouraged and encouraged all at the same time, which is, it sounds like this actually is really hard, one, and it feels like there's still a lot of work to be done, right? And I think Tableau mentioned when they were introducing Blueprint that only 8% of organizations feel like they're doing a great job implementing and developing on their analytic strategy. So you're sitting in here and you're like, man, we have a long way to go. It's cool because the person next to you is thinking the exact same thing, most likely, right? So the other thing I would say too is I'm in this world right now as I'm building a brand new business and organization where I'm very focused on how do I learn how to run a business, obviously not just a consulting firm and doing data and all the analytics and whatnot, but how do I run a business? And I'm reading all these books that kind of talk about how do you take vision and strategy and create an operating model and so forth. And I've been struck by the fact that, it's not just, that framework doesn't just work for building business. You could do that for any organizational strategy, analytic strategy, supply chain strategy, whatever. And you talk about things like, what are our core values? Well, when it comes to data, it can be transparency and trust, right? We trust other people, which means that we give access. We open up more access. We don't necessarily let you download or take it with you, right? But we give you the access to the data that you need, right? IT sees themselves as enablers as opposed to gatekeepers, right? These are things that go back to your core values of what you believe in, how we should be using data inside our organization. What's your 3-year vision for where you want to be in 3 years? 3 years is just far enough for us to be like, we really don't know what's going to happen in 3 years, but we'd love to be here in 3 years knowing what we know right now. And so you start to think about and work backwards, those are things that you do with a business. But if you start to think about those same things in terms of an analytic strategy, those things work very well, and the blueprint kind of falls into that. So those were a couple of things that I took away, as I was kind of hearing the blueprint piece, and just kind of putting my own lens on it. Other ideas? Cool. All right, I'm going to put one other one out there because I think there's a little bit of an elephant in the room. So that was, with Tableau being bought by Salesforce, what do you think the impact of the acquisition will be on Tableau in the future? I'll defer if somebody else wants to say this again.
Interesting question. I think that if Salesforce, states their commitment to run Tableau independently, we could see some really new infusion of ideas. But if it's the status quo from a normal acquisition, we could see an impediment to innovation, which is really concerning. Either way, we're going to see some great integrations with Salesforce. So.
Yeah, I think the easy thing when that first was announced is to see how that benefits Salesforce. I mean, they get all of the great technology that Tableau's already built. Now they can integrate that with their suite. I think the cool thing that may come out, and hopefully it does, is we see Tableau start to push more towards a cloud architecture. Because Salesforce has been in that space for a long time and is a leader in that space. So hopefully that can translate into Tableau and get them more into that architecture.
I'll just say real quick, in the public sector, I hope, we have to be good stewards of taxpayer money. And so there's a lot of technology adoption, like Travis mentioned. Where's the training? Can we actually get our users to use it? Can we have a unified approach? So in the public sector, we've had a lot of different solutions at tech. I think it's kind of maybe a waste of taxpayer money sometimes. So hopefully Salesforce can give a little clout to adoption for Tableau. I don't want competing solutions on campus. We're like a small city, so we have to actually commit, and hopefully Salesforce can help us commit.
I kind of hope it becomes like Power BI, where people get Salesforce and by nature they get Tableau and they have to use it. Because I have a lot of clients, I work with small business owners and a lot of them are like, I already get Power BI, I'm going down that road and I'm just like, oh. So my hope is that because they're Salesforce, that maybe they come as a package.
So one thing that I've kind of looked at is there's an organization called MuleSoft. MuleSoft is an API integration layer. And the reason that I look at it is because Salesforce bought them about 13 months before they bought Tableau. And so I kind of look at that and kind of say, okay, I'm looking at where you are now, and I'm looking at the independence that Salesforce does or doesn't give you, and kind of thinking we're probably going to be in a similar place 12 months from now, right? And I've been really impressed by the fact that MuleSoft is still MuleSoft. I'm friends with a person who is a salesperson for MuleSoft, and they're still selling MuleSoft. And so I went actually last night and looked to see, like, does MuleSoft have its own conference? Because I think one thing that I feel like would be a huge travesty is if all of a sudden the Tableau conference went away after 2020 and just became part of Dreamforce. Dreamforce is like a conglomeration of about 200,000 people in San Francisco. And it's about the last thing that I want to go to. At least, like, San Francisco is great, but 20,000 people in Vegas is a lot of people for me, particularly when it's in Vegas. And 200,000 people in San Francisco is not what I want to do. So I'm hoping that the Tableau conference continues to stay independent. Tableau is a good bit bigger than MuleSoft was, so whatever that means. And MuleSoft actually still does kind of micro conferences in about 5 or 6 places around the world. So I don't know what they did beforehand, but if that's similar or whatnot. So that was one thing. And then the other thing I'll say is that Francois Amistad, who's the Chief Product Officer at Tableau, mentioned that when the acquisition went down, he felt like it was a great move because it allowed the product team to really focus on building a great product, because the sales team all of a sudden kind of got to hit the easy button. Salesforce was going to infuse so much cash, and they also had so many connections to so many organizations that would just immediately open up for Tableau. So I think we'll have a different conversation a year from now when we see what all shakes out. But I know that happened in June, and it was like, whoa, what? So I figured that would be an interesting one to get people's thoughts on. Other questions in the room? Gentleman right here.
Kind of related to what you're talking about.
Okay.
It really has to do with the cost. Because obviously the cost of installation for Salesforce typically is a lot less than the cost of Tableau. It's being used for a broad swath of people. Because you have 2,000 salespeople, something else does. Everybody needs Salesforce. But the Tableau installation is a much smaller group of people because the senior leadership team basically says it's too expensive. Not your fault. I think that would
It may. It may. My guess there is that the quick response would be, I would think about the different license levels of Tableau, and most of the people that you're thinking about when it comes to Salesforce would be kind of viewers, and so you're talking about $150 a year or something like that for a viewer license. Which can't be that much more expensive than a Salesforce, a license to access Salesforce. I mean, I haven't priced Salesforce, but it'll be interesting, right? I don't know what's going to happen. And I think we should probably have one of those safe harbor disclaimers of like, you know, any thoughts and opinions here cannot be held against. Do not make any stock purchases. Yeah, I don't know the answer. Other questions? Gentleman right here.
So, I actually have a couple, but I'll make them quick. You guys have like 50 years of combined experience up there using Tableau. This is my first user group.
That's scary.
Where do I start if I'm not actually working with data in my role?
The Tableau starter kit.
Oh, is that a thing?
Tableau.com/training/starter kit.
Okay.
I was trying to be cute. I apologize. So the Tableau starter kit is actually an underutilized resource that Tableau publishes. It's a combination of free to use resources, links to the forums, knowledge articles, all of their free videos, also opportunities to access their e-learning products. From there, really inside of the forums and the community, you'll link out to things like Tableau Public, and get links to other blogs of Zen Masters, other social projects like, Makeover Monday, which we mentioned. There's some other ones like Take Back Tuesday, or Take Back Tuesday? Or Throwback Thursday and Redo Tuesday. Workout Wednesday, Sports Sunday. Yeah, right. Viz for Social Good. But I would start there. It's a great resource. And then I have an entire email I can send you if you want to give me your contact information that I've created for new users.
I've been on your website.
So,
the other question I had is why, so in a space where there are multiple visualization tools, why do you prefer Tableau, like in general? Like she mentioned Power BI, there's obviously other options like Micro. Is there a reason why you guys have like a preference?
I like Tableau because it gives you creative freedom, and you can pretty much create whatever you want with no restraints. So what she said, I think that's key. That's definitely one major benefit. But another, I think, is I don't know of another software that has a community anywhere close to Tableau, and I think that says something. Like, do you ever hear like Microsoft user group? Like, nobody does that, you know? And it's like Tableau. You go to the conference and you just see like there's like 17,000 people, and they get this excited about using a software. You have a question, people have created a blog about it, they've got YouTube videos. It's just, to me, when you find that, there's something special about that, you know, and I don't think that exists in any competitor.
I'll second the user community. I think the Tableau user community is fantastic. The forums, if you go out there and you search for something, somebody's had a similar problem, and you can take that and apply it to whatever you're trying to deal with. I think the other thing is, compared to some of the other visualization tools, Tableau is very user friendly. It's the drag and drop interface and everything is very easy to get used to, and it helps you just kind of start building stuff without really knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, what Travis said, it's very intuitive, and basically as a creator, people, they'll glaze by your news, they'll glaze by your videos. I mean, you spend months recording an awesome video, and they take 2 minutes to watch it, and they're done. But Tableau gives them agency, gives them the ability to explore. So I've been able to, as a creator, create, on the news cycle, really quick visualizations that get tons of traction. We're talking thousands of views based on whatever marketing campaign I'm doing. And it's reinvigorated my career. And I learned it, I wasn't in data at all like you. I just believed in my data set, I believed in my Excel skills, and then Tableau came next. And it's, like I said, it's been great ever since.
I'll say too, I think Tableau is really good at enterprise dashboards. I think there's no tool in the world that's better at ad hoc analysis. And so I got to throw a bunch of stuff together. I need to explore this data setting and visually see this really fast and understand what's going on. And some of the things we talked about earlier today, the explain data and the ask data and the ability to find an answer really fast, and to find a new answer to a new question that we didn't have before. That is what I think is so powerful, and in so many ways, I've told people in the past, I feel like I'm hitting the easy button, or I feel like I'm playing a video game at work, or like it's a joy to do this stuff. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths is that, for all the joking we did about the dynamic parameters, it only took 7.5 years in order to get that feature in there. In many other ways, Tableau is really responsive to what the users are saying, and they even anticipate some of the things that are coming down the line to make data easier to understand. I mean, Tableau's mission statement is one of the best ones I've ever seen executed. Their mission is to help people being the keyword, see and understand data, period in the story. And so the goal of their platform is to help you see what's going on with the data and help create that understanding. At the end of the day, everybody in this room is trying to do that for the people that you work with. You're hoping to create that understanding, and I think it's a great tool. It does a great job of executing the vision.
I ditto a lot of what they're all saying. It's very user-friendly, it's very efficient, it's very intelligent. It helps me catch a lot of my errors when I'm bringing them over my Excel forms and CDS forms into it. The fact that I kind of have a vision of what I want it to look like, and I can just drag and play. If I don't like it, I switch it right back out. It's quick.
Ditto.
Other questions?
This is honest expression. Instead of WhatsApp group or something like that,
All right. So I've had this idea. So the question was, hey, it would be really helpful to be able to do more communication. What I'll say is right now, what is in hand is, I think everybody would kind of say LinkedIn is kind of the place for some of that stuff. Karen and I, ever since we took over, we've had a thought, and maybe there's a question that comes off of this, but like, what could we do to kind of take some of this to the next level? And one of the things I've thought about is building an app for ATUG that could, in theory, kind of have a communication platform. There's a place to ask questions, or a place to say like, hey, has anybody ever done this, or whatever. And what I keep running into is I feel like, hey, everything I come up with, I feel like is already answered in some other kind of use case of, if there's a question on how to do something, well, that's the Tableau forms or the blogs. Or if there's like a way to reach out to other people, that's really LinkedIn. But there's a lot of different things that are doing different things, and you don't really know, well, hey, go here for the form, go to the forums for this, go to LinkedIn for that, go to the Tableau webpage for this, and could we bring it all together, or would there be a use case for like building an app that would do over and above? So if you have ideas for it, in theory, let's say an app existed, what would you want it to do and why would you use it? That would be an interesting conversation, right? I'm not saying we're going to build it because we've got time for it, but we keep kicking around the idea. So it's an interesting question that you brought that up. What I would say in lieu of an app is that LinkedIn's probably your best spot to kind of ask questions. The other thing is the Tableau forums. Tableau has some, and I don't know what these people do for their day job. It's amazing. But like there are people, if you ask a question on the Tableau forum, typically you're going to get an answer within like an hour or two. Josh, one of those things, I mean, I'm blown away by people who just sit there and answer questions all day.
I ask all these questions today.
So that's a big one. Yeah. And they're amazing. So start there and start on LinkedIn. But those would be the two places I recommend in present state. Any other?
The community is on Twitter too.
That's a good one too.
What's the hashtag?
I mean, Twitter, hashtag Tableau, hashtag data, hashtag dataviz, hashtag datafam, hashtag, I don't know, right? I mean, there's a ton of different things. If you get really into it, there's some things too where there are particular people who are really good in the community at particular things. And so, if you're trying to do like a National Geographic, really cool map, you might add Johnny Walker. Right, not that Johnny Walker. If you were trying to do something with survey data, you might do data. What's his? Steve Wexler is not Steve Wexler, I don't think, or it was like Data Revolutions or something. I forget what it was. But if you don't know kind of who to go to, it's just like, hey, who knows how to do this, right? Just kind of at Tableau or hashtag Tableau or something.
I want to throw something out there. Nelson knows about this, but I do think you have a great point that it would be great to have a way to stay in touch and be more connected outside of just like LinkedIn or Twitter. I mean, people use one or the other, and you don't check it every day. So that is definitely something to solve for. But I do think there might be potential. I started working on this a while ago. Might reveal it at another meeting, maybe next month. But what if we had a workbook, a Tableau workbook, that had like future meetings? Like we all have a Google sheet that we could easily connect a workbook to. And we have like every meeting going out that we've planned into the future. So wouldn't it be nice to know what meetings are coming up? Do we already have a host? Where's it going to be? Wouldn't it be cool to like be able to click on a previous meeting and see the YouTube video if you missed it? Or to volunteer to speak by clicking on account, you know what I mean? I think, and if potentially there could be a page in the workbook, another view with like links to some of these things, like I'm new and I just want to get plugged in, like where should I go? Perhaps it could just be simple URL actions that would take you like to some suggestions. You know, what do you think?
I mean, there are multiple options. Like, I am planning to roll out a company in my organization, and Tableau is, I thought manager came back and said, all you can create user group specific to the company. So, you can create a user group specific to Atlanta. That's a subgroup within the broader organization. Or if people have price concerns, then you can actually group these and a messaging tool with email address. So, or maybe a Facebook page with privacy is not a problem.
So one thing I'll say too is there is a thing that happened very late last year, or very early this year, called the Data Visualization Society. And Data Visualization Society is not Tableau specific. It is for data visualization practitioners, be you journalists, be you Tableau, be you Click, be you whatever you would call data viz, right? And you know, the thought originally was, you know, there would be a couple hundred people, it would be fun. They just crossed over 10,000 people that have now joined the Data Visualization Society. The reason I mention it is because the primary way of communicating and interacting is via Slack. And so what I've done with a handful of folks is other Tableau leaders who own their own business in other parts of the country, we basically started a little private Slack channel off of the Data Visualization Society. We could kind of, I don't know how it works or whatnot, but if we could create like an ATUG channel that's there, and then you're kind of getting a dual purpose where it's like there's a much broader data visualization community that's happening, and then at the same time you're getting ATUG. I think the gentleman in the back has something to add to this.
Yeah, if you wanted to keep them separate, you could just get Discord and just create your own Discord server and have it there too.
Discord?
It's the same as Slack, but for gaming and social stuff. It doesn't cost you anything.
Well, the only difference is, it's a bit, you have to, in Discord, to post code, you have to make it a quote, okay? And that's the only thing you need to know. Okay?
I like it.
But it's not tied to your work.
Yeah.
You didn't want it to be.
Whatever it is, obviously, I think long term it would be something that would be outside of your work, email and stuff like that. And obviously, it goes without saying, if you post confidential email in there, that would not be the idea here, right? Like, you know, we're here to help, but we're not here to read your data and your PHI, PII. That's it's not good.
Kind of a related question to that. So, a lot of what I deal with is, I work in distribution centers. And so, like, the data I work with is not financials really at all. It's kind of production data. So, as I build my Tableau public profile, as I try to, showcase what I can do, what are some tips you guys have for one, exploring different types of data, and two, finding a data set you're thinking is really fun, and that gives you motivation to build. So, what's some tips on how to bolster your Tableau public profile?
So Corey's question was, you know, in his role, works in the distribution centers with Walmart, right? He tends to see the same data over and over again, and interested into, you know, how do you do things like Makeover Monday or look at other data sets that would kind of stretch you or be a different type of analysis. So for this one.
So you want to do personal visualizations outside of work?
Yes, so I like to visualize outside of work, because obviously I can't just change the numbers and put what I've spent hours and hours at work, because someone will be, hey, that looks really similar to what we have at work. Yeah, I just don't want to do it.
Well, this is the end of the decade. Everybody's coming out with their best of the decade list. I've discovered a lot of music that I missed over the past 10 years. And they're easy to scrape off the web. So honestly, pop culture database is all the best of the decade. So it's really motivating for me to dig into that and make them kind of creative. So, 2020 is around the corner.
Yeah, I would say, there's a lot of free data sets. You can go to Kaggle, Google has their own hosting service now. Go find something that you're interested in. Like if you're interested in golf or sports, go find, your favorite NFL team, your favorite basketball team, and build a viz around that, or their history as data. Just get something that you're really interested in, and you'll get into that rhythm as you're starting to build it, where you'll just start, get into the flow, as they say, and build something really cool.
I've heard a dozen times of different people telling me that they discovered Tableau when they were trying to do their fantasy football team. Kid you not. I've heard that story a dozen times. And now they do analytics. So.
Data.gov is the one I did, and I did a really cool visualization of the fish, the band. It was a person that just loved data, and he collected all this data, and was like, hey, we can turn this into fish.
I would say Makeover Monday. Obviously, if you want to try to find something you're interested in out that's new, there's data sets back to 2017. Data.world is another free repository that you can find a lot of information. And Kaggle has a scrape program, I believe. So if you find something that you like, you can just scrape it really quick.
Ditto.
Another thing is perhaps if you're interested in this type of thing, looking for a competition or something to enter, and occasionally you'll find something where they'll give you a data set or at least a topic, and sometimes that motivates people to if you're looking for something like that, that database society, they're out there, they'll list competitions, and you can Google a lot of times Tableau competitions, and you'd be surprised how many things come up. Iron Viz, even if you don't enter, sometimes it's just, that could be an idea.
I think Data for Good, we're reaching out to some of our nonprofit organizations and offering your talents is also a good way to not only showcase, but also to help. Oh, and we need a host from Hinson. That's only Data.
You guys hear her? May, we need a host. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, I have a question. So when you guys work with, based on our experiences, when you work with Tableau visualization, how much data, the maximum amount of data you use to work with, so that you provide a good visualization and a good response time, not too large to affect the customer's experience.
So I'll repeat the question. The gentleman asked, when we started thinking about really big data sets with Tableau, what is kind of a maximum size data set so that you're still getting a good user experience, but at the same time, obviously crunching through massive volumes of data. I'll take a swipe and then kind of hand the microphone over. What I will tell you is that at the end of the day, when the data gets really big, Tableau is not going to be your limiting factor. The limiting factor is going to be your database. And the reason for that is that, after a certain threshold, somewhere between 50 million and 100 million rows, it stops making any sense whatsoever to export the data into a Tableau hyperfile. It's not that you couldn't do it, but who would want to sit there and kind of watch it spin for that long, kind of loading data? I've done analysis on tens of billions of rows of data, where the back end was Amazon Athena, Snowflake, XSL. What you really need here is a high performance analytic database that is designed for crunching data of those types of volumes. Your traditional databases, like a SQL Server, single thread is not going to be able to. You're not going to have a good experience there. I know that some of the folks who are using Oracle are running into some of those same things as the data needs to get really big and stuff. And so, and I'm not going to, good or bad all the different databases here in front of everybody. But what I will say is that the database becomes the thing that matters at that point. And so that goes back to having a really good analytics strategy. Other comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, just to second that, I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot when you get these large data sets. People think Tableau will just be able to handle it, but having the correct infrastructure in place to be able to handle that volume of data is key. If you're talking about performance issues with lower volumes of data, I think there's some great resources out there. There's the Tableau performance checklist that you can go take a look at, and it just outlines things like make sure you're not trying to do too much at one time. Make sure you're limiting the data set that's trying to be visualized and things like that. So that's another good resource.
I saw that Bo McCready, he did a century's worth of movies by genre. It was more than 1 million rows that Excel could handle, so I thought I couldn't do it in Excel, but you just import the JSON file into Tableau. I learned this, so natively I had to learn how to use the databases beyond Excel. And so it was very fast and responsive. This is, I don't know, however many movies over the past century. It's a really good viz. Bo McCready's, Westerns were great in the 20s. And it's very responsive, but I learned that Tableau can do a lot. You just have to figure out the capabilities of it.
I would second everything that was just said, but depending on what you do, you may be a user that drags and drops in fields from the data source, or you may write custom SQL, and it's highly overlooked that the way Tableau handles custom SQL is different than we expect. So if you're seeing performance issues, I would call that out and spend some more time really evaluating what your SQL is doing, regardless of the database.
I think one thing before we come off this topic is just to understand what Tableau's doing, right? As you're dragging pills in, Tableau's writing SQL. And the patent that Tableau was in the very beginning was this thing called VizQL. The idea is that we're going to create visualizations that are basically taking things that we're dragging, and that's going to reach in and based off what we're dragging, we're going to write SQL into a database. It's going to give us an answer, and then we're going to visualize the answer. That's what VizQL is from a patent perspective. And so when we talk about what Tableau is doing on the back end, when it's querying massive data sets going against the database, or if it's going against Hyper, what it's doing is it's running a very highly performant query to the best of its ability. Highly performant query, reaching into a very highly performant database, and giving you that answer as fast as it can as soon as the database gives it an answer. But Tableau, again, is just the conduit for visualizing the answer. It's typically not the data, right? So that's the other kind of big piece. All right.
What's your favorite Tableau tip or trick?
I'll go back and forth on that one. Sorry, so the question was, what is your favorite Tableau trick or tip? I'll go with one. This is selfish. So I came up with a trick when I was at a client that flies things in the air, where I needed to be able to do a drill when things clicked, and drill in a way that the data wasn't, Tableau didn't have functionality. So what I basically built was, I built a dynamic parameter based off of using, I click on something and it would basically substitute that click into the URL of the web page. So it only worked on Tableau server because there was no such thing as dynamic parameters. But I basically built a dynamic parameter in 2015. And so, because I had to, and because the analysis required it. And that's typically where like the mother of innovation is like, necessity. And so I needed it to do that, and so I built it. And honestly, like if I look at all like cool things that I ever did, again, I'm being selfish, but like that was just like one of those things where, like I always kind of do that before. This one time I did that, so that's a cool one for me. I don't know, and I'm sure there's a ton of other things that come with it.
Stalling the default. This is probably pretty lame, but I like using dual access to, people have nanosecond, attention spans. So the display of data is static. You want good labels. So I use dual access to highlight some labels, and then with the interactivity, it erases those, and they can interact, and the labels appear on other marks. Because basically, you display 1,000 marks on the canvas, this is garbage. So you have to be selective with full access to you want default labels to show, you want to return data, and then when they start interacting, it changes which labels show up on the bar. So it's pretty cool for people who quickly want to find out whatever they're trying to share.
I'd say I have a love-hate relationship with a couple of these, but the one that we've used a lot is, some people have probably seen it, but the show and hiding of a container before it existed. So that's probably one we use a lot. It's a really cool trick, but getting it to work sometimes can be a pain. Basically, it's a hidden sheet that when you click a button, sets an action that will pop out a container to show something that's not on the screen.
Well, you stole mine. My other one was the percentage of year elapsed, because most of us have that little clock we're trying to monitor. So typically in a lot of my financial dashboards I create, I want them to show how much time they have left to hit a goal. So I'll create a reference line on the bar and show kind of like the sand glass moving over time. So they always know, okay, I have 10% of my year left to hit my goal.
It's not fair to follow everyone. So my hack or tip is that I kind of use a template. I've spent the time investing in standardized, and I do this in every organization I work with. I figure out what the marketing colors are. I figure out what's approved. I put those hexes in. I store it. I build templates, dashboard templates, sheet templates. I kind of speed my process up. I was inspired by Andy Kriepel's visual vocabulary workbook, right? And then any kind of specific things like logos or data refresh code that we already have in the header, the information button. It's all available, so you're not spending the mundane time of adding that in, where you can really focus on the analysis.
Well, I'm the newbie of the group, so for me, my tip is make sure you have someone on your team who's an expert at Tableau, and you have their phone number, their email, any type of way to communicate with them ASAP.
That's good. Okay, you guys got one in the back. Talking about having an info button. I'm sorry. Andy's talking in the back about having the ability to have like a hover. When you hover on like an item, use a tooltip to kind of explain to people, hey, here's what's going on here. That's great for telling people, hey, this data is coming from here. It was refreshed here. So to make sure that people understand what they're looking at.
This is so hard because I just feel like, wow, there's so many things. Like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think, so many tricks, but what are some cool things? I mean, one thing, very early on, coming to an ATUG meeting, Nelson did a presentation on take your PowerPoint templates and make them visualizations. The next time you have to do a PowerPoint, do it do it in Tableau. And if you change a filter, people are like, "What kind of PowerPoint is this?" And I've done that. I mean, early on, and it was in particular like pretty impressive. Now people know we have Tableau, but that's fun. But there's so many things, even simple things like. This sounds so basic, but just like in the colors, the pick, select a color. Just being able to like, on your screen, I use that all the time. So.
All right, we got time for probably 2 questions left.
So I was going to ask you guys a bit of information, but you already addressed that. I like a fun question. What was your favorite workshop or thing you learned from the conference?
I'm happy to lead that one. So I'll say that the very first conference I ever went to, I mentioned a gentleman by the name of Ryan Robitaille, who was a Tableau Zen master at the time. This was 2013, so, and he went to Facebook and kind of disappeared off that planet. He had sucked in back to Facebook and never come back. He's one of those people. He's doing well. But he took a Tableau visualization and dashboard, and he was one of the first people that I ever saw who really did some very thoughtful graphics around it and kind of showed how he layered in the interactive pieces and the different sheets, and then layered that on top of or behind all the different pictures and stuff like that. And he showed like some amazing stuff that he'd done that just looked so seamless. It looked like a graphic designer had put it together. And that was like the first time that it clicked of like, oh my gosh, this can look cool too, right? And I remember walking away from that just totally mind blown, never having thought that stuff, never really having seen a bunch of other things, and also kind of awakening to dude's got a blog, and his blog is amazing. So again, that was kind of the beginning of my journey in a lot of ways. So I think I would imagine a lot of us will kind of say, the first time I went to a Tableau conference, I saw this cool thing. That was for me.
So TC19, I went to a Tableau prep session. And the next iteration of Tableau prep, we're talking about everything in the future tense. You can easily add ranks. Everybody loves ranks, ranked list. And so in Tableau, you can use table calculations to do your ranks right now. But in Tableau prep, you can just add your rank. And that, I was like, man, I want to have a field day with that. So easy stuff in the future.
I have not been to the conference.
I feel like I've already shared so much about the conference.
Well, what about last?
All right, one more question.
Thinking about kind of a design process, iterative process, do you have any favorite questions that you would ask potential users to get really good quality feedback?
So the gentleman's question was, are there any favorite questions that you go to as a part of the design process that are kind of go-to, tried and true things? One of the questions that I think I ask literally every single time, kind of two questions wrapped in, or same thing but wrapped into two questions. What does success look like for you? And the way that I will sometimes say that in a funner way is, if we could build you the greatest whiz-bang awesome thing, what is it and what does it do? And who's it for, right? What I'm trying to figure out is, sky's the limit. Blue sky this thing, if you can massage my feet and you can make me a sandwich at the same time, that would be like true success. It's like, we'll work on that, right? Talk to Alexa over here. But you want to know at the end of the day, what is exactly your true vision from the person who's sitting on the other side of the table from you, and then your goal is to get as close to that as possible within reason, but also making it simple enough so that it's maintainable and so forth, right? So from there, it just becomes a balance of how do I get you the data. If you ask for every single data source in the world, you as the analyst should know better and basically say, but what's the most important, right? And so there's one of the other things that I would also say, and then I'll pass the mic, is you're not there to just take orders. You're there because you have an expertise and you're there to guide the person that's sitting at the other side of the table, right? If all you ever say is yes, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble, and you're rarely going to finish what you start. Finishing, shipping in the world of software is the victory, right? There's always updates to software, but no product ever gets into the hands of a consumer unless it ships. It has to ship, right? And so you've got to be able to get to a place where there's a version 1. There's got to be low-hanging fruit. It's got to be good enough, right? Let's get this in the hand. Let's make an impact, and then we come back and make it better, right? So that would be maybe the other thing is, hey, we'll do all 12 of those things one day. What's the one thing you got to get done right here, right? What would make the most impact? So those would be maybe those two.
2 points back.
This is probably not the smartest approach, but I don't have to answer to anybody, any client. So I do the visits. I said this is a branding initiative. This is not trying to help your research. So we think we know what makes the most compelling story. So we get lots of good and negative feedback because faculty are opinionated, if not anything else. And so we've learned over the years, grinding through it, saying, okay, this is a reputation marketing piece. Let's collaborate. You want certain things in there. So it's been good to initially go out and just do it and get land blasted. Faculty don't like to be quantify. There's a lot of qualitative research. And so long story short is they're not paying attention to what we're doing. And so it's been, publish first, ask questions later.
Yeah, I think I'll second what Nelson said. I think it's important to kind of kick it off. It's like, what's the best case scenario for you? What are you looking to get out of this? And then I think an important piece, though, is the iteration process. So going back to them as you're going through that process and saying, does this work? Or what was your expectation here? Why is this different than what we're delivering? And then iterating over that process to get to and ultimately a new solution. But I think Nelson started with that.
I know you mentioned design, like specifically, and I don't know about you guys, I never asked them what they wanted to look like. Sometimes they are very specific, but most time I just try to get a feel for what question they're trying to answer, and then I've studied Tableau inside and out. Like, I know what Tableau can make it look like. And sometimes if I have an idea of what their question is, like what do they really want to know, and it's like daily sales, then I'll think of ways that they may have never told me to display it, like a calendar. I did that, it was a while back. Now you see them on Tableau, but I can remember doing that, and it was like 2014. And to this day, it's like one of our most popular workbooks on the server, but no one specifically told me, I want to see a calendar.
The first thing I always do is I ask them, what are the most important questions that you want to answer? And what actions do you want to take? Because you have to do something with your data. And then the third one is, what inspiration have you seen? I'm a little different. I'll go out and I'll kind of ask them what visualizations are out there that you like. That way I get a sense for their aesthetic. Because the last thing I want to do is start using purples and pinks when they want to use oranges. And some are sensitive to colorblind, some aren't. So I do go down the aesthetic rabbit hole.
I would reinforce what Nelson said. I think that one key thing is I always come back with the simple question, which is why. And a lot of times your stakeholders don't really understand the why. They're just being told, we need to see this KPI. Well, but why? What's the purpose? And kind of start having the dialogue and just continually asking those questions, whether it's at the beginning of the engagement, the middle of the engagement, at the end, or you're doing your 3-month, do we retire this review of workbooks? Just always be asking questions.
I'm going to kind of answer it on the opposite side. I don't create anything for anybody. As far as clients, I do for my leadership team. But when I sat with Kirsten, when I got introduced to Tableau, that's what it was. She asked me the question, what is it that I want to share? What is it I'm trying to show? What's my story? What's important to me? And I could answer those questions. And the fact that, like what Karen said, she came to me with a lot of examples and templates and graphs, things that I never thought of. Oh, I didn't know we could show it that way. So I think have some templates. As Anthony mentioned before, he had templates. I think that's important. You can pretty much kind of present certain things to them to see what they like best.
So I'll wrap us up. So we'll ask you guys a question real quick. So, as far as I can remember, this is the first time that I remember kind of a panel type of thing. What did you guys think of this? Was this helpful? Did you like it? Thumbs up? Everybody? Yeah? Awesome. We're constantly trying to think about what would be interesting and useful to you all in the audience. And I know I learned some stuff listening to these Rockstars up here. So excited for everybody to learn something today. If you have ideas, obviously as we get into 2020, on one thing that we would have asked, one of the questions we listened, kind of the can question is, what do you want to see out of ATUG in the future? What would be more helpful? Karen and I both have our emails, and that's in the invite. So if you have ideas for, hey, wouldn't it be cool to we'll take all of that in. Some of those things, obviously, maybe more aspirational than others, but there may be some things that we can bring to life more often. Maybe we do this every 12 months, 8 months, something like that, where you have a diverse group up here and kind of answer different questions and pick, allow you to kind of pick brains. If it's cool cool with everybody. You know, we'll stay up here if you have questions that you weren't able to ask, and we'll hang out for a little bit. But with that, what's up? We did in the middle, but we forgot it first. So, you know, we'll catch that one next time. Hopefully, everybody who was looking for somebody found somebody. But with that, we will. Sounded funny. Sorry. We will dismiss for the remainder of 2019. We are excited about the opportunity to see everybody. We're going to be at the Battery at Comcast on the 23rd of January. Like we said, you are not going to want to miss that. That's going to be blow the doors off amazing. I think we have room for 250 people. Get this, Comcast is bringing 75. So you better get there early. Because if you want one of the other 175, you know, like I said, it's going to be awesome. Do you invite them wherever you want to? It's an open invitation. Thank you all so much for attending, being here. I know it's December. Everybody's got a ton of stuff going on. Happy holidays to everyone. And great Christmas. Thank you.